intended length of stay would definitely be 4 years. I know people have questions like, oh, what if you're a medical student and you want to do an 8-year program, you know, eventually. Hi guys, how you guys doing? Welcome to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Esther and thank you so much for stopping by. So today we're going to go over the process of filling out your DS-160, which is what you need to do first before you're able to book your F1 visa appointment. In this video, I'm going to be acting like I'm applying from Nigeria, so I'm going to be going to the Nigerian website, you know, for the U.S. visa, the U.S. embassy and all of that. So I'm going to set up my screen record for my computer so we can see what's going on. Okay, so since I'm going to be applying from Nigeria, we're going to just type in F1 visa application Nigeria, and you should get directed to where you need to go. So the first thing you'd see is the apply for US visa website. It might not be the first thing, but just basically find this link and click. And so here we have the general overview page. Make sure to kind of read over this page before you proceed because it contains every information you need to know, and you definitely don't want to miss out on that. So we're applying for F1 visa, which is the most common type of US student visa, and blah 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 blah. And we're going all the way down to the application items, which tells us the things that we're going to need for the F1 visa application. So first things first is the DS-160 form, which we're going over in this video, and everything else is like, you know, your passport. I'm just gonna quickly go over those. So for your passport, it says you need a valid leave of at least 6 months beyond your intended period of stay. So in this case, it's telling you you need at least 4 years. Like, you know, your passport needs to be valid for at least 4 years. But in reality, it doesn't really need to be valid for at least 4 years, especially because you're going to study. So this really applies a lot to like people who are maybe going for visiting or stuff like that. But if you're going to school, for me personally, what I kind of go for is at least 6 months beyond the period that you're planning to enter the US. So for example, if you're planning to enter the US in August, then your passport has to be valid for at least 6 months from August. So because I mean, if you have like, for example, 2 years validity on your passport, you're not going to start trying to renew your passport when it's still got 2 years on it just because you want to have 4 years. So you can kind of just aim for 6 months from time that you're entering the US. But everything else is just kind of self-explanatory. Your photograph, and you can get your passport taken at any professional photography center. Like, there's so many places that specifically take passport photographs for the US embassy. So if you go to a place like that and you just show them, or you just tell them what you need, they will kind of, you know, easily take the pictures for you. And then you're gonna have to pay your visa fee, get your I-20, and you know, all that stuff. Let's see. I'm trying to find where the link to the DS-160. Okay, there it is. So we're there, and then it just kind of gives you an overview of what to do when you're filling out the form. Make sure you read that, and then we're going to click here and find the form. And then I'm applying from Nigeria, Lagos. And by the way, it does give an instruction somewhere here. I'm not sure where it is, but you see it somewhere where you're reading that if you choose a particular location at the beginning of your DS-160 right here, which is like Lagos, you can't change it later and be like, oh, I want to do my interview in Abuja. Like, no, you have to do, like, select from the beginning where you're going to do your interview. So it has to be consistent. So you put in your verification code, and here, this link here allows you to test your photo to make sure that it's within the requirements of, like, you know, for the visa application. So you can do that here. You upload the photo and it will tell you whether or not it's good for use. Okay, so we're going to start an application. Then it gives you an application ID. You can probably write it down somewhere or print it out like it's giving you here, so that you can have it for whenever you need to retrieve your application later, like at the starting page, if you need to log in again, you need your application ID. So you're gonna choose a security question and then just continue. We're gonna start, you know, we have our application ID. We're gonna start with filling out our information. Have you ever used any other names? No, for me. If you're married and maybe you used to have a different last name or things like that, you can always include that here. Do you have a telecode? No. What else? Female, marital status, single. Just the basics, y'all. You kind of get this. And the next page. Oh wait. Okay, so I have to remove the hyphen between my last name. And we'll move on to the next stage. Country of originality, Nigeria. You select your country. Any other nationality? No, no. Just select as applies. I don't have one. I have a social security number, but here we're gonna pretend like I don't have one just because I'm applying. You know, I'm applying fresh. I don't have any history with the U.S. in this case. That was my case when I, you know, applied. So we're just gonna go with that. And I think most people are probably in the same situation as well. Purpose of trip. We're going for academic. Specify F1. Have you made specific travel plans? Nope. If you have, you can select yes, but I think that most people who are applying for student visas don't really know a lot of things, like how things will turn out. There's a lot of uncertainties. So I wouldn't select yes for that. Like, it's gonna ask you for very specific information. But for me, yeah, so for me I selected no. And intended date of arrival, you can choose this date based on like maybe on your, when you get accepted into your school and things like that, they'll give you like an academic calendar and you get to know, have an idea when the classes are starting, like orientation week. So you have to arrive maybe like 1 day before orientation starts or 2 days before orientation starts. It doesn't have to be specific. So you just estimate your date of arrival. So for me, I arrived on the 12th, if I recall correctly, or thereabout of August. So if your orientation is starting like maybe on the 14th, we can put 12, something like that. So I'm just gonna put the 12th of August. Okay, and by the way, I know some people have situations whereby they want to arrive like 2 weeks earlier or stuff like that. I would still put something closer to orientation because you don't want to create suspicions about like what exactly are you trying to do, what exactly are you going to do. I would just kind of put something that's more focused on your academics rather than maybe who you're visiting or if you're visiting a relative. But if you're willing to explain yourself during your interview in case you're asked like, oh, why is your intended date of arrival so far from the time that, you know, your orientation starts, then you can explain and be like, well, I have a relative and I would just like to say hello to them before I leave for school. So you can put that. I just like to be safe. Intended length of stay would definitely be 4 years. I know people have questions like, oh, what if you're a medical student and you want to do an 8-year program, you know, eventually. Well, I would still put 4 years because you're going to go visa by visa. So this one visa would last for your first program, and then later you're going to switch over to another visa when you go to medical school, and then you can also include the 4 years for that process later. So say 4 years. Where will you be staying? So here I would just put my college address. If you have an address that you're going to be staying with proof that you're going to be staying in that address that's not your college, then you're going to have that included here. But for me, it's so easy to just put my college address. And person paying for your trip. So you're just going to put your sponsor's information right here, very self-explanatory. So persons traveling with you, are there other persons traveling with you? No. If it applies to you, you're going to click and go ahead with that information. I'm going to move on. U.S. travel. If you have ever been to the U.S., just click as applies. Have you ever been issued a U.S. visa? No. No. If you have, you select and then you have to explain yourself. Next, address and phone. If you've used any other phone number you have to select it because they have their reasons for asking. So, but if you haven't, then just select no. And then email address. Have you used any other email addresses in the last 5 years? No. If you have other email addresses, you definitely want to put that there. The ones you remember. If you don't remember, it's fine, you know, it's not a do or die affair. And then your social media information, put as many as you can remember, right? You put as many as you can remember. But if you don't remember, like, that would mean that you probably are not active on it at the time, so it's not like big of a deal. To be honest, I don't really remember like how this worked at the time that I applied. I think it was there, but I don't remember if I had to, like, you know, put every single thing, or like it would affect you if you don't. But I would just put as much as I can remember, because you don't want a situation where they will find you somewhere and be like, oh, why didn't you include this on your information? So you definitely want to do that. So I'm just going to put my Facebook. Easy. Do you wish to provide information about your presence on any other websites or applications you have used? Well, that's up to you. I'm clicking no, and then we're moving forward. Next, we have passport info. So you're going to use your regular passport if you are regular, which I think most people are. And then I'm just going to put a random passport number, to be honest. Passport book number, let's see. I would just put in the same number since they're the same. Where was the passport issued? So you're just going to write wherever your passport was issued. Have you ever lost a passport? No. If you have, just put your info there and move on with that. Point of contact information. Okay guys, so for F1 students, your point of contact information in the US would be your DSO. So your DSO is your designated school official, and that's the international student advisor that's in charge of every international student. So your DSO is the person's information that you're going to enter. So how do you get that information? Well, most times when you get admitted into a school in the US, you get your acceptance packet, and when you get your acceptance packet, they would provide this information for you. But if they don't provide that information, which would be really weird, what I would do is have to, you know, call them or email them and ask them for that information. But most times they would. In my case, they did. So I'm just gonna write the information. If you say do not know, that would be suspicious, so I wouldn't advise doing that. Just ask before you finish filling out your form. Relationship, school official. It's always definitely good to have a school official as a student, because it just shows, like, why are you going there? You're going to school, so it makes sense to have that. And you're just gonna put the address that they give you as well for that person, which usually would be your school address and maybe the PO box of that person. So I'm just gonna put in a random number for the PO box of the person and move on. They'll give you the phone number as well. I'm just gonna put a random number and then email address as well. So in next, okay, so here you're gonna enter your family's info. So it's asking, do you have any immediate relatives, not including parents, in the United States? Your immediate relatives are not like your cousins or your, you know, extended family. You know, it's asking about, you know, for example, it says your fiance, your spouse, your child, your siblings, so your immediate family. So that's your nuclear family, not your extended family members. So we're gonna say no. If you do, maybe you have a sibling that lives in the US, or maybe you have your spouse there, or whatever, make sure you select that. And then now it's asking, do you have any other relatives? And here would be, I think, your extended family. So you just select as applies, and we're just gonna move on. present work, education, training, information, if you have any work experience, and that's part of your story because you have to explain yourself when you go to your interview. If it's a relevant work experience, that's going to be a part of your story, such as, you know, maybe you've graduated from high school and then you're just kind of like that in-between phase where you're just kind of working or just doing different things to keep yourself busy before going to college, then you're going to put that here. But if you're not going to mention it in your story, there's no need to put that here because then you're going to confuse yourself when you get there. You can't even remember what to say about that work experience. So only put relevant work experiences if you're going to mention them, except of course if you're like going for a master's degree or like you're, you know, real working class and there's nothing that's going to be too complicated when you're explaining yourself, then of course, yeah, put that there. Because for example, if someone is going for their master's degree, then it only makes sense for them to be like, oh, you know, I've been doing this job for a couple of years and now I'm going for my master's degree. But if you're just kind of like that in that bubble phase, then of course that creates a lot of complication and you have to really be able to explain whatever you were doing at the time. So at the end of the day, it's at your own discretion to know what you're going to put here as your work experience. So if you look, we have education section and then we also have the student section. So education would be for someone that works in an education department and a student would be for someone that's still in school. So if you're a student and you're still in school, then you're going to select that information right here. And you know, whether it's undergrad or high school, whatever, you put that information right here. If you're not employed, right? Sorry, I forgot to explain that. If you're not employed, you're just going to explain your situation. See, whenever they say explain everything that you want them to know. It doesn't matter if you're going to tell them during your interview, you gotta explain here so that the person interviewing you would already have background information about you. And then next, we're going to move forward. Provide your employment information for the last 5 years that you were employed, if applicable. So within the last 5 years, you know, like I said, put in any relevant employment information that you want to include. So I'm just going to say no. Have you attended any educational institutions? I'm going to select yes because I did go to University of Lagos and I did talk about it during my interview. So I knew I was going to talk about it, so I included that in my application. So I'm just going to say random date. I'll just say 2021. Next. Do you belong to a clan or a tribe? Yes. So here for Nigeria, we have tribes. You know, you have different tribal groups, ethnic groups, and stuff like that. So you get to decide, you know, what you want to enter in there. But if it doesn't apply to you, depending on where you're from, then you do not have to choose that. You can just choose your language and add more languages if you need to. But for me, I'm gonna say yes, and I'm gonna type in my tribe, Yoruba tribe. So for language, I'm gonna add English language, and then I'm also gonna add my other language. At the end of the day, I don't think the order of writing these languages matter, but for me, I put English just because English is the official language in Nigeria, and it's like the language that like most people just like really speak. So that's why I just kind of put English first. You don't have to follow this order or anything. It shouldn't make a difference as long as you speak English fluently. Have you traveled to any countries within the last 5 years? No. If you have, just put your information. If you belong to any charitable organization, feel free to select that. Do you have any training? No. Military? No. Security and background? We're getting there, yo. We're getting there. Oh my god, it's taking forever. Do you have any disease? Mental or physical disorders? Poses threat? No. Drug abuser? No. Next. So many of these questions. Arrested, convicted of offense? No. Yeah, we're just gonna go through this part. I just wish I could just skip. Finally, y'all. Finally, we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, additional point of contact information. You have indicated that you'll be studying in some capacity while in the U.S. List at least 2 contacts in your country of residence who can verify the information that you have provided on this application. Do not list family members or relatives Okay, so this is basically asking for like references, you know, like people who can basically, you know, bear witness to this information. So what I would suggest is you could just put the people who were references for your school application to apply to the schools that you got accepted to, or you can use like references on your what's it called, your resume, or you can just ask people that you already know. Whatever works, just feel free to put in the info. Okay, so this is the SEVIS information. You're just going to enter your SEVIS ID information. So I'm just going to put in random numbers right there. Name of school, you're just going to enter your school info, course of study, biology, address, same old stuff. And finally, you're going to upload your photo, which you would have tested in the beginning to make sure that it fits the dimensions. Okay, just going to review everything. So next it says sign and submit, which I will not be doing. This is definitely where you read through. It's very important to just quickly go over this information. It's not lengthy at all, so just kind of read through and then sign. So then when you sign, this part is going to take you over to the confirmation page, and it will guide you on what to do at this point. It will tell you to print the confirmation page, and then you're going to have information with which you can go ahead and pay your visa fee, right? You're going to pay your visa fee. So once you're done with paying your visa fee, you're just going to go ahead with booking your visa appointment. So we have come to the end of this video, and I hope this will be really helpful for you guys. And I really just wish everyone all the best. You know, y'all got this. You got this. I will see you in my next video.